Welcome to the Aristocrats Soccer Podcast, the elite soccer podcast in all of soccer podcasting. I'm your co-host, David Harris, and I'm here with co-host Jake Egan. Jake, what's going on?
Doing great, Dave. I'm heading up to Madison soon, so we got to get this episode in quick.
Yeah, well, we have an extra elite special guest in the one and only Sidney Rivera. Sidney, how are you?
Doing well. Thank you guys for having me, and be a very interesting conversation.
Absolutely. Look, I'm very excited to get you on. We've been wanting to get you on pretty much since we started this. So now it's a good time. And maybe we'll start off. Maybe you can just tell us a little bit about why now is such a good time to talk with you, considering everything that you're doing right now.
Yeah. Well, we're able to fit this into the schedule now. Right now, I'm in national team camp. Been here 3 days. Feels like it's been a lot longer. Doing 2 days, and getting some sun out here, and the different weather from being home in Jersey to coming out here, getting used to the weather, getting used to the new coaching staff, new way of training, new way of playing. As well as some new guys that are integrated into the group. So now's the best time. We have the afternoon off and had a nice morning session. So now's the best time to have this conversation.
So you're in Dominican Republic with Puerto Rico national team, doing some training now to get ready for World Cup qualifier you have coming up with Puerto Rico, and you're going to be playing against who the next game?
We have St. Kitts the first game, and then Trinidad and Tobago the second game.
Nice, very nice. So going to be some really, really high quality soccer, particularly. I'm sure St. Kitts will be a good game without a doubt, but then definitely, Trinidad. Everybody, I think, for the most part, should be pretty familiar with the level of that team, the quality. Some really, really good players in that group. Not you don't have Dwight York anymore, but there's still a very, very good team, and should be a lot of fun. So must be really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's an amazing opportunity to be a part of a World Cup qualifier. It's the biggest stage you can be on, to be a part of a World Cup. And what comes with that is the qualification process. So it's the winner of the group goes through to play the winner of Group A, which I think you can say the top group is El Salvador. And then the winner of that one-game playoff goes into the Hex with the U.S. side. So that'll be very interesting, and that's our goal.
As captain for those that don't know, you've been captain of the national team pretty much every appearance that you've made, right? Since you first made your debut?
Yeah, it was after my second game. After my second game was the third game that I played with the national team was my first game as captain.
Yeah, I mean, I can say I'm always jealous of your trips, following you on Instagram and stuff, because I've always wanted to be a part of a national team setup, and as an American, and being that my only passport, I'm not good enough to get in. So it's great to see you kind of being able to play with a smaller nation, but still a nation, like you say, that is on this huge stage, getting to captain the club. But how important for you on a personal level has these experiences been over the last year, when there's been so much uncertainty around the world, and you've still been able to go on, I believe this is your second or third national team trip now?
It's the second trip within the year. It's been a super, super weird year. I had turned down some opportunities in the fall due to, COVID, the way COVID hit a lot of clubs economically. I figured I'd wait for a better opportunity, and I'm still waiting. So that's a personal decision that I made, and I made my own bed, and I have to sleep in it. But having this, being able to be a part of this group, I'm not the only one who's been affected by the pandemic. Most of the guys here, I would say 75% of the guys here are in the same boat as I am. So having this, we were supposed to get ready for the qualifiers that were supposed to happen in October, but the pandemic also pushed those back to now. We got together in January for a little camp to get the guys who weren't with clubs or hadn't played games, in and training together, playing. We played two friendly games. So now's the real deal, So that the January camp was kind of exactly that, like a bridge for this camp. Make sure that guys were fit and still playing, taking care of themselves. And now, now is we're getting ready for the big stage, and it's the most important for us.
How is it? You mentioned new coaching staff. For those who haven't kept up or just hadn't seen the news, so you have Dave Saccharin, and is the national team coach for Puerto Rico. So Dave just came off of coaching with North Carolina FC. They decided to drop from USL Championship to USL League One. I think that might have had some of the impact on the decision for Dave to decide that he wanted to move on to something else. Former U.S. national team coach, right? So Dave's got a very very experienced coach, very experienced extensive background in the game. So what has he and his coaching staff brought to the team to make things a little bit different?
Oh, it's exactly that. A lot of experience. I think the morale of the group is a lot better. The atmosphere of the group seems happier, with to have someone who, with the pedigree that coach has, is incredible. Everything from top to bottom has changed in terms of the way we do things, training, the type of training, everything has been great. Isaac. Little podcast going on. Yeah, I mean, he's been great so far. We're very detail oriented. We're playing a lot. The intensity is super high. I think he's trying to get to know each and every one of us, not only playing but personally. And he's been, the guys respect that. The guys respect him as a person and as a coach. So that brings a whole lot. It's a whole different dimension, something that we haven't had with the national team yet.
Yeah, I find that as a player, when you have a coach who either has a big resume as a player or as a coach, there's that instant respect, and it can have such an impact on the group, because he can be just as good of good of a coach as Joe Schmo coming off the street. But the guy coming off the street, everybody's like, who's this guy? Who's that? But Dave, I'm sure, has that respect from the group. And everybody knows that he has connections around the world, not just on the international stage, but if you guys want to obviously play club football throughout the year, I'm sure he can help kind of facilitate that. So he's a perfect guy to bring in at this time for sure. But my question for you is kind of going back when you first started with the national team. Your debut was in 2019. So that was when you were 25, right? 25. So what was that experience like, getting called in? And did they call you in? Did Puerto Rico call you in before that? Maybe when you were in college or when you were in MLS or during any time before that?
No. So the way it works, when I was younger, I remember getting an email when I was younger. Might even have been a Facebook message. Because of my last name, Rivera is very common in Puerto Rico. And I had gotten a message asking if I wanted to represent the U17 national team, Puerto Rican national team at the time. And I have no direct bloodline to Puerto Rico. My dad is Colombian, and my mom is from an African island called the Cape Verde. My dad actually got papers to become a U.S. citizen from my grandma marrying a Puerto Rican guy. Now, him being my step grandfather, I couldn't use. So it wasn't, the thought of me being here wasn't really valid until after my year in Orlando, where I went to play in Puerto Rico FC. So after I spent those 2 years with PRFC is when I became eligible. Having lived on the island for 2 years made me eligible to represent Puerto Rico.
Is that right?
That's exactly what it is. So I got all the documents in. It was a long process. That was they were getting ready. It was like Gold Cup qualifications. The first time, I think it was the first time that CONCACAF has set up Nations League. And it literally took, I remember Amaro Guevara giving me a call at the end of the summer when they were just starting to, they're getting ready to have games in November and then in March. But I couldn't get, they couldn't figure it out until March, when they said, hey, we got everything through, you're qualified. And that was my first call up.
So just to back up, so all the players that played with you on those 2 years with PRFC, they would also be eligible if they went through and filed all the paperwork, or no?
So you would have to, like, I had a physical address in Puerto Rico for 2 years. So that was my physical address for those 2 years. So that's what allowed me to be able to represent Puerto Rico.
That's awesome. I didn't realize that. I thought your parents or something. That's really cool.
I obviously, having that connection with my dad, I figured that it was strong enough, but it wasn't, because he's not a direct line to my family, my direct family. So that's the way I did it.
Cool. So why don't you tell us a little bit about where you're at with your career? The national team has become a big part of it. And what, like you mentioned a bit about COVID and offers and just everything, like, where are you at? You had been in Asia and now, in Bangladesh, and now, you're kind of, affected by the situation and trying to figure out, I guess, what the next steps are in terms of your next club.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very fluid situation, as it always is. I'm sure, Jake, the way it is. Right now it's a waiting game. Right now it's a waiting game. The way I did spend the last 2 years in Asia. Asia's a market that's very interesting to me. It's, to be just blunt about it, it pays better than it staying here in the US. So that's a market that I've always been interested in ever since I left Orlando, and I was looking into Thailand while I was in Puerto Rico. And that's it. The opportunity arose 2 years ago in 2019, January 2019, I believe. The first opportunity arose. I went to Vietnam. I went on trial. It was a tournament, a preseason tournament that the club was playing on. I had absolutely no idea. It was through an Instagram message that I ended up going. I verified everything. Went. The guy set me up with the club. I had no idea which club I was going to, so I kind of went blindly. And the guy put me where the tournament was. I met up with the team. Played in 7 days. I played 5 games, and I scored 3 goals in the first 4 games, and that typically that's all you need, right? And I was doing well. The last game, the coach had asked, my ticket was to leave on a Sunday, and we had just finished playing on Thursday, and I was only playing. It was myself, and it was like a turnstile of different players from different countries all over the tournament for different teams. I was only getting 45 minutes a game, and so were the other guys. And they, little by little, they would take out guys that weren't doing well, that they didn't like, whatever.
Right.
But after those 3 games that I had scored in, after the 4th game, I went to the coach and I said, "Hey, I need to know a decision. I've been here. I've played. When you're here in the U.S., you go on trial. You train for a week and play maybe 1 game.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll try to prolong it for another week of training, another game. But it typically doesn't take too long. You'll see right away if a player has got the ability or he doesn't. So he asked me to play one more game. In that one game that I played, I agreed. I played it. I had intercepted a back pass from the center back to the goalkeeper, and I had hit the post, and it went out. I missed the opportunity, and I finished the game. And my agent, we ended up winning the game. My agent that was helping me was like, "Hey, these people are superstitious because of the fact that happened, and the ball didn't go in. You know, we might have problems." So he didn't say anything to me. He promised me that after that game that he'd let me know, and nothing. So I packed my bags and I came home. 2 weeks later. 2 weeks later, my phone. I wake up and my phone is blowing up, and it's this agent saying, you know, "Hey, the coach wants you. We got the deal. Everything's done. You need to sign all the papers, get your ITC, get everything filled out." So that's how it happened. That's how my first opportunity happened in Vietnam. And then 20.
Oh, so they overlooked the superstition thing.
Yeah. So they ended up signing. It was between myself and a Senegalese guy.
All right.
They ended up signing the Senegalese guy, and then the Senegalese guy started having problems. So when he started having problems, they said, "Forget that," and then they called me.
All right.
So after that happened, then I went to Bangladesh. Similar thing, I had to go on trial. First game, I scored a goal, and boom, that night I had to fly back for Nations League.
Yeah, I remember that.
Last November. Signed the deal, flew back, and then that was it. Literally, I was there for maybe.
How are your frequent flyer miles?
Oh. The issue is that they're all on different airlines, right? So I racked up playing for PRFC, right? Heading to Edmonton, everything was a flight.
Yeah.
As well, right? So
yeah, we were the same boat. We were the two farthest teams traveling just everywhere, and going to Edmonton to Puerto Rico is the craziest trip in any domestic league ever. It's not even domestic, really. But
Cody Lorendi was telling me when he was part of the Islanders before PRFC, he was telling me before Vancouver Whitecaps used to be a part of the NASL.
Farther.
Even further. So they would fly from Puerto Rico. He said they'd go to Miami to LA to Vancouver. So we went, I'm pretty sure we did Puerto Rico to New York to Denver to Alberta to
Calgary. You probably went to Calgary. Yeah, Calgary is the bigger airport. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy. Some of the trips that we make, but Bangladesh to Puerto Rico and back to Bangladesh, I think that one takes the cake.
Well, it was Bangladesh because I flew to Bangladesh, was there for less than a week, signed that deal, flew back, and then we had an away game in Anguilla. Flying to Anguilla, Anguilla's so small. We flew one of those like 6-seater propeller. They had to do 6 different flights for the whole team and staff. So that was very interesting. Back to Puerto Rico, playing again, and then back to Bangladesh. So
that's wild. Well, I know we can skip ahead a little bit because obviously, unfortunately, COVID happened in March, and that was a couple months into your stay. You did it in Bangladesh. You scored a couple goals, seemed to be doing well from everything. But so between those two leagues in Vietnam and then in Bangladesh, how would you compare them? The experiences, the cultures, anything you want to share?
That's the amazing part. I mean, when I have teammates, when I have friends, guys who are interested in going to Asia, that's what I always harp on. You know, it's uncomfortable, right? I kind of pride myself with having 2 parents that are immigrants. I pride myself on being adjustable, right? Grew up listening to 2 different languages plus English, so 3 or 4 different languages. So it never really scared me. Going overseas never scared me, but a lot of guys it does. So you find out a lot about yourself when you're in a situation like that, right? You're alone. You don't know anyone. You don't understand the language. The food is foreign. But in terms of football, Vietnam was definitely a better standard. It's more of a footballing nation. Bangladesh is top in cricket, but the money was equal in both countries, which is interesting. Bangladesh is a very impoverished country. It's very, it's the capital of the garment industry. So a lot of cheap labor. But I played for a government team. All my payments were on time. They took care of us, had a chef, had a driver to and from training. Some guys took advantage of it. But, when you're over there and especially when COVID hit was when I was just starting to get comfortable with saying, okay, I'm willing to go check out new places. I feel, settled enough to go do that. And COVID hit. So it's between the two countries. Vietnam was they both were great experiences, but Vietnam was definitely a better footballing country.
So, as far as like, what do you, is that what you're looking to do next steps? Like go back to Asia, following this experience? Is that, like, because we've had some discussions ourselves about like USL and, if the opportunity was there, but it was the right situation, then you'd be interested. But like, a lot of times, as we know at USL, especially now with all the cuts with the salary and, it's just really hard for guys to make it, financially. And, is Asia the place you're really looking to go next, you think, again?
Well, it all depends, David, right? Like it all depends on the opportunities.
Right.
These opportunities that came up, one of our assistant coaches here is Daryl Shore. Used to be the Forward Madison head coach when they first came into the league. And we actually had a conversation the other night about how when I actually got the opportunity to go to Vietnam, I had already booked my ticket and it was a trial to go to Madison. So I bet on, and he even told me personally, he's like, hey, you made the right decision because there's a lot more money over there. You know what I mean? So it's about the opportunity. So right now, USL still hasn't started. A lot of teams have started preseason, but a lot of teams haven't. A lot of teams are still looking for players. So it's at the point to where it would be my first, is my priority because of the financial security as well as the experiences that it gives me. It's my first priority. But if that doesn't happen, then, for me to continue my career in the way that I'd like to, I'd need to find, a situation here that I'd have to accept something that maybe I wasn't willing to accept before.
What about like, have you looked into any other areas since you're pretty into trying, different experiences? Have you looked into any other parts of the world? Like just off the top of my head, given the fact that you're playing for Puerto Rico, I'm assuming that, some of the clubs in that part of the world and, some of the other countries in CONCACAF or El Salvador, Costa Rica. Is there anything in there that you've looked into or any other part of the world?
Yeah. So after these previous games in January, I had some Dominican teams who were reaching out to the federation, the people in the federation. So that could be a route that I go. After the NASL folded, I had an opportunity to go to El Salvador, and for some reason, at 24 again, that was one of the opportunities that 23 at that time. That was one of the opportunities that I passed up. I had an opportunity to go first division in El Salvador. Two of my former teammates played for that team, said good things about me, and the president, the president was calling me, sending me messages saying, we want to sign you, and I passed it up. That we all have regrets and things that we look back on and say, hey, I might change this, I might change that, but again, I made that decision, and there's nothing I can do right now. But right now, that's what I know. I know I had some Dominican teams that were very interested in January. They haven't started their league. So right now Indonesia is open, and a lot of the other Asian countries, Bangladesh is the market's open again. Right, it's mid-season. So at this point, it's everything's an option. I can tell you, I turned down an opportunity to go to Denmark right before this. That was a situation to where, again, it was a friend of it was RJ Allen. Right away, he stuck his neck out there for me. I train at one of the places that he owns in Jersey, in the office, and one of the teams that he played for in Denmark needed a striker in their second half of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Called me right away and was like, I thought of you. Are you interested? And I said, yeah. Spoke to the guy. The deal was basically done. And when I actually spoke to my agent, he's like, listen, you're going from, even though you haven't played professionally, right, in a league for over a year, now in March, we're completing a year.
Mm-hmm.
You're still going from a first division. Your ITC is still in a first division club to a club in third division that wants to go up, but it's still third division.
Mm-hmm.
Player like you, if you go to a third division and you score goals, like we think you were supposed to do that. But if you go to a third division and something happens to where 12 games, you score 4 or 5 goals, they're going to look at you and say, hey, how am I going to take this guy back to a first division? Right? So these are little conversations, little things that I didn't think about it like that.
Mm.
My agent painted the picture to me like that.
Mm.
And once he kind of painted the picture, it kind of made sense. Right? So at this point, that was an opportunity that I had that, again, I just turned down.
Mm.
Right now, Indonesia is open. Indonesia would be an awesome market to get into. They're starting preseason now. Their season starts in June.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, my ears are open, my doors are open. It needs to be. I don't want to make a rash decision
Mm-hmm.
for my career, because at the end of the day, it is a career. It's a lot of people don't think about it as a business, but it's almost as if going from a first division to a third division is basically being a general manager at a Walmart and then going to be a cashier at a McDonald's again,
Mm-hmm.
or at the same Walmart. You're going from the top to a lower position when you don't really need to. So yeah, that's the situation that I'm in personally. And I stay grounded. I don't let any of the outside noises affect me. I put in the work myself, and whatever opportunity comes, I know I'll be ready. And
Mm-hmm.
This is such an interesting conversation for me as someone I've always kind of looked into going to Asia as well, just because I think the new culture, the potential financial benefits, so interesting. And it's crazy to hear you talk about it, but also agents that Dave and I have both talked, like things that we never even think about, like they want strikers or they want imports that are taller, because obviously the Asian population is generally shorter. Things that you're mentioning in terms of first division is like looked at as a higher level, even though like the first division in Ireland is a lower division than the third division in England, but they would still kind of look at that Irish first division as a better thing, which to me, it's, as like an outsider, it seems stupid, but it is something. If you want to play there, you have to really take in and listen to it and try to apply it as best you can, because if you got to try to play there. But from your perspective, as your career, you've gone from like high levels. You've been in MLS. You played in the NASL, which, as we both know, is a crazy good level. You played in top divisions in Vietnam and Bangladesh, but then you've also in between to kind of keep yourself free and not lock yourself down too much. Whereas if you would have signed for Madison, I bet you they would have had you sign a 1+1. So you would have been locked in for 2 years. How much value do you kind of put into that time where you maybe went down to the NPSL or you went down to play with FC Motown, and just to stay free and keep you got to keep getting games, but you also have to be available for these Asian clubs that want to bring you in. And how important has that been?
Oh, it's super important. Obviously, you know, when a player is at home, you know, and David has also given me many opportunities to play games and stay fit, and that's what, as a player, that's what you want, right? Training can only do so much. Playing games is a different type of training, a different way of staying sharp, because you can do the repetition, but there's no better repetition than an actual game. So that's my point of view. The downfall of that is that, yes, those games are technically on your resume, so people can ask, hey, this isn't even a pro level, but it's a place taker. You know what I mean? It's grant with falling to the NPSL from the first time. That was when the NASL died. When the NASL died, as you know, it was just an influx of players, right? So an influx of players were not getting what they were previously, and I decided after all that time that I'd go and play NPSL and just get games and continue to wait and bide my time. And you know, after that, couple of ex-teammates were sending me messages like, hey, what's going on? Why are you not playing? Need me to put you in contact with my agent from here. And that's when I got in contact with PJ Savage. It was Brian Burke who sent me a message. He put me in contact with PJ, and basically he sent me to Reno. Now, I went to Reno in 2018 after being with Orlando, then going 2 years in the NASL, being up for Young Player of the Year, to not having many opportunities come from that, to playing in the NPSL. And then I signed a $0 contract for the last 2 months to go to Reno. So I literally went to go to Reno and play for free. You know? So
wow.
And these experiences is what really gave me that extra push to say, you know, forget about you. I need to look after myself. This is a job. At the end of the day, we love the game, but it's a business now. We have to look at it as that as well. So that's when then I really, you know, looked at the game more financially, because that summer I actually worked. I worked while I was playing in Atlantic City. I was a bartender, and
sweet jerseys, sweet kits, by the way, Atlantic City.
Atlantic City was awesome. Atlantic City was super awesome. The setup, you know, obviously a first time club always has their hiccups, but I enjoyed my time there. The summer was awesome. Atlantic City, you know, can be a crazy spot, but yeah, after that, the Reno happened, and then after Reno, when that I had between Madison and Vietnam, and I said, you know, I might as well just put my eggs in one boat and let's go to Asia and see how I do, and I enjoyed it. I did well, and that was the door that opened.
Yeah.
Kind of going back, sorry, Dave, just to cut in 1 sec. Going back to what you're talking about with this is a business, and you have to look at yourself as a business. You're someone that on Instagram, you have probably 30,000 followers, which is a lot of followers. You do a lot of like kind of workout videos and training videos and things like that. How important do you think that is for an athlete on our level to kind of market themselves on their own? And how do you have any advice for anybody that might be listening?
Oh, I mean, it's a very interesting topic. Now, the older I get, the more I don't want to be on my phone. When I was younger, and I still see it this way, right? We have access to so much on our phones through social media. Us as athletes, it's free marketing. You're literally marketing yourself, right? So that's the way I looked at it. I looked at it as okay, if people, you know, whether it's trying to trying to push the younger generation and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what got me to where I am, and this is what I need to continue to do to stay and to continue to get better. Here it is. And that's the way I looked at it, right? As well as, whoever's snooping around my profile, whoever's interested in my profile, me as a person, this is what I'm doing. This is what my life is. And I'd rather be posting about this than anything else. So I look at it as that. It's self-promotion. All the workout videos that I do, training videos, all of that is for exactly that. Promoting myself as well as trying to push the generation that's after us, right? A lot of us are seen as role models, and that's the kind of person that I am outside the field when people aren't watching. So when I get the opportunity to say, if I'm training with my dad and my dad,
your dad cracks me up on those videos.
wants to take a video, I said, hey, this is the scene right now.
It's beautiful.
My dad wants to take a video, and I post it, and that's it. It's always been like that my whole life. Since I started soccer, my dad was always there with me, helping me out, and it's still like that. So that's how I see social media. As much as I want to take a step back from it, I don't do it as much. But as well as it helps with sponsorships. It's another side of the business, right? I've gotten paid from posting on social media. So if the salaries aren't great, it's a way to add to your income.
Yeah, and if clubs were smart, which I think some are, they would take that into account as well. Just being brutally honest, like if two players are very similar and one has a huge social media following, a lot of times bigger than the club itself, you have to sign that player. like I look at, we had a guy, unfortunately that's just a fact because it's a business and they're in it to make money. There's no promotion relegation in the US. It's entertainment. And we had a guy in Greenville, Omar Mohammed, he's Somalian national team player. You probably know him. He had more followers than Greenville Triumph, the club. So the club would be like, hey, Mojo, can you repost this? Because we'll get some of your followers. And they would keep doing it's a part of it. And I think you've done a great job in marketing.
I hope he had some kind of deal in his contract.
I don't think he did, because I don't think Mojo is that kind of guy that he would ask for money. But they should say, hey, can you help us grow our brand? And
yeah, I've never thought about it like that. On the club level, I think of it's more so individually, but on the club level, it's interesting that you had that thought.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, we touched on a little bit, and you guys talked a little bit about with Motown, with the NPSL, and just with some of the local clubs like in the New York area that you'd be playing for, and it's a chance for you and other players, and many players that come through the area that they're out of contract, or they're waiting for the next opportunity. I mean, you're definitely not alone in that regard. There's many players, will just be off season or whatever, and they'll be
or in contract players are doing it probably than they shouldn't be.
No. Mostly they are legitimately out of contract. They actually do. Well, that's if they're not affiliated leagues, but for a Motown or for a Lansdowne or other teams like Greek Americans, Pan Cyprians, whatever, here in New York. They do have to file the paperwork with USSF. And so it's all very, on the up and up. But it's a chance for a guy like Sidney, many other players to come in and train, stay fit, get a game, get some money. And then, on the other side of it, as Sidney mentioned, you're going to Reno on a $0 contract. And, it is what it is, but that's the business side of it. But then,
and at the same time, you could play for Motown for $400 a game. So it's just
yeah. And then you have somebody in Reno paying for a ticket to watch the team Sidney might be playing, and they don't realize. And this is fairly common throughout the league, the USL. So
A little disclaimer: I never got paid for playing for Motown. I'll just
okay.
a lot of guys.
Plenty of clubs do, but yeah, okay, that's fine. Whatever. I'm just using that as an example. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
But it's true. It's true. It's very, very common. But in my personal case,
yeah,
that wasn't the way it was when I was at that club.
yeah. I don't want to make too many assumptions, but a lot of the clubs in the area, the guys will come in and
They
they'll
do. Oh yeah.
the table, and and that's been going on forever.
Yeah.
So that's not but I'm just using that like RJ, who you mentioned before. RJ Allen was playing in the local leagues here in New York. If he was registered, it was all very official, and he was getting paid probably a decent amount of money per game. And then the next thing like a month later, he's with NYCFC. I'm watching the game, and he's at Yankee Stadium, and it's at Yankee Stadium. He's coming on. I'm like, a month before that, he was playing in the park, and the guy went on to have like a really nice 4 or 5 year run in MLS after that. But I mean, and we had Kevin Garcia on before, and Kevin was just at a point early in his career where he was in between New England Revolution after his draft, and then he's gone on and he's gotten back to MLS, and Kevin was playing for a local club, and he was getting some money for it, and these things happen, so somebody has rich person has money, they're able to do a team, and it's something their hobby they do for fun, and they'll get players that are off contract or whatever, guys that are retired, and give them some money to play.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting topic. I'm sure you want to kind of get back to the beach or getting back to whatever, Sidney. But before we kind of close it out, my last question for you, I don't know if Dave, you have another one. But that first year when after you at Old Dominion, you had a good career at ODU. Your first year were drafted by Orlando City, and then you went on loan to Louisville and to Pittsburgh. So what was for young professionals, your rookie year was an interesting one, but a very typical one, that you're in MLS, but then getting loaned out to lower league teams. What was that experience like, both from the perspective of training with top players in MLS, and then also kind of seeing the USL pyramid for the first time?
Yeah. No, it was super, super, super interesting. I don't know what's going on in my room right now.
They're getting heckled. That's what's happening.
Super interesting. It was an amazing experience. Taught me a lot. Perseverance, even more so than college did. When we go into the idea of being a part of an MLS club, right? And when you go down to USL, you figure that, hey, most of the cases that I've seen or that I know about, the guy goes to get games. So you figure right away, it's like, hey, I'm gonna go and play and show, what I was signed for in a professional level. Doesn't matter if it's USL or whatever. It just so happened that at the time Orlando had made the deal to work with Louisville. And when I went on loan to Louisville didn't really need me. That's what the reality was. Matt Fondy was having he had a great year that year.
He won the Golden Boot, MVP, everything. Yeah.
Golden Boot that year, MVP, all of that. He was the captain of the team. And I remember vividly that I had other teams that wanted to take me on loan versus where I had to go because the club had made a partnership. So it was a tough, I was getting 15, 20 minutes of USL games. There was one game, the US Open Cup game, that I had a meeting with the coach at the time, and he told me, here's your opportunity. and I was happy. I was happy with it. We went to Indy, which, right at the time, in 2015, USL was third, NASL was supposedly second, MLS was first. So we were a second division, first year, third division team going against a second division team. And Indy gets decent crowds and all that. So I started that game. I scored the winning goal in overtime. We won 2-1 or 1-0. And that was midweek. I had a meeting with the coach Friday, the day before the next game, and he said, I'm going back to starting lineup. So what can you do? You know what I mean? So at that point, it's just like, hey, you as an individual, that's where you have to be, you have to persevere. You have to know your why are you playing? Because this game has a lot of highs and a lot of lows, and the guys who are able to balance those out are the guys who end up with longer careers and sticking longer, right? So that's it was a punch in the gut at the time, right? Because when someone tells you to your face personally, hey, here's your opportunity, take it, show me what you can do, and as a forward, as a striker, what more can you do than score a winning goal in a big game?
Right.
So that was my biggest takeaway of my rookie year, as well as obviously just the training environment in Orlando, being able to play with the last player to win the Ballon d'Or at the time that wasn't named Ronaldo or Messi.
Kaká, for anybody who doesn't know who he's referring to. Yes.
An amazing experience, an amazing learning experience. You had Danny Mwanga, former number 1 pick. Kyle Laren was my class. So many guys. David Mateos came from Real Madrid. Martin Patterson was a striker of Northern Ireland. So super awesome learning experience. Like that was probably my best. That was probably a time in my career where I was happy to just be training, being surrounded by those guys, and being able to see, what they do day to day, how they go about their work, their training, what they do outside of the field. So that was my biggest thing in Orlando, and when I went to Louisville, and then after that time, I got sent to Pittsburgh for another game. Louisville didn't release my papers for some reason, so I went with Connor Donovan, another kid from Orlando. He was able to play in the game, and I wasn't because they didn't send my papers. And that was it. Literally, I stayed there for another 2 weeks. And then I went back to Orlando. And November came. I was always one of the first ones to get into training. That was one of the things that I always wanted to do. I wanted to be, I wanted to work. I wanted to work, and I saw all those other guys, what they did, and I wanted to emulate that, right? I was always in there for 9 o'clock training, 7:30 latest, get some breakfast, go to the gym, bike, foam roll, and get myself, ready for training. And as soon as I got to the facility, assistant coach got me. I went to go meet with the GM, and he said, "We're not going to pick up your option. We want to let you know now so that you have time to go look for another club."
It's a tough time, but it's always I wish I got that experience in MLS kind of at the top, even if I didn't play, because I find that throughout your career, you don't get exposed necessarily to winners, to people who have done it enough. And I think that's the best way to learn. You learn by doing, but you also learn by seeing people who do it right. And I'm jealous of that experience for you. Dave, do you have anything else for our esteemed guest before we head off?
Yeah, just real quick. Anything from your time with Puerto Rico FC that really stands out is there must be some really cool memories of that time.
Yeah. Besides having not to play in Puerto Rico because of the hurricane, that was crazy.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
No, obviously being able to represent Puerto Rico now, it's one of the best memories that I have in my career. Just the island life, living right there in Puerto Rico, right next to the beach. The culture, the people, super friendly. They enjoy life. Island time is a real thing, but what they do is, Puerto Rico is actually, if they were to become a state, which is a very controversial topic, but theoretically, if they were to become a state, it'd be one of the lowest earning states.
Mhm.
So very humble people, and it's a really fond memory because of where I am now. It paved a different way in my career, to get to where I am now. So that's an experience that I'll always hold super close to my heart, and obviously it's being able to go back there and visit the people that took care of me while I was there, meeting some people that I met. One of the kids that got called in now, I had no idea who he was. He did very well in the youth national teams, U17s, U15s, and they just called him in now. Some guys had declined the call up, or some guys couldn't make it due to COVID or the club or whatever. And he showed me a picture while I was playing in Puerto Rico. We did clinics and camps all over the island. And at the time, you go to training, and we trained early because of the heat. Wake up at training, probably started at like 7:45, 7:30. So you're up 5:45, 6 o'clock, get a quick bite, get on the road by 6:30, in the locker room by 7, out to the field by 7:15, 7:30. And the kid literally, after that, you're tired. And we would have these camps and clinics and stuff, and a lot of guys would be like, damn, like it was an extra hassle, to have to get into the car and go do all these different appearances. But when this kid showed me a picture of him and I remember the day vividly, because it was one of those exact situations to where it was on the opposite side of the island. We never went over there, right? But this was a clinic that, the west side of the island doesn't get a lot of the love that San Juan and the metropolitan area gets.
Mm-hmm.
And this kid was a kid that was influenced by that trip that we made.
Mm-hmm.
It was a 3-hour trip in the car, and we got home late and all that. But for him to show me that picture, and he personally said, hey, I have a memory that I want to show you, a picture of us. The dude was like 10, 11 years old. And for him to see the picture, and for him to say, I looked up to you, that's the kind of thing that I reference to when I do post videos that I do of my training and stuff. It's for kids like that, who don't have the support that I have with my dad, who have to do everything by themselves, giving them an idea of what they can do on their own. It's that really was something that hit me out of nowhere. So little things like that, those are things that I take away and that I loved about my time in Puerto Rico.
That's a great story, and it's so cool to see you guys reconnecting now. And I think it happens around the U.S. as well, with some of the USL clubs that have a good relationship in the community. But traveling to Puerto Rico, you could see that it was a different level, because you guys were the one team, one club on the island. I mean, there's smaller clubs, but you're the one professional club on the island. And you guys got good support in the national stadium, and you definitely could tell the whole island kind of rallied around you guys. And even at that time, I don't even know if the national team was really playing very many games. So it was a big deal. It was a big deal when Puerto Rico FC was playing.
It was a big deal. And it's a shame that what happened. It was a shame. I'm pretty sure, I don't know if it was public knowledge or whatever, but pretty sure they were given an opportunity to go into the USL and it was passed up. So, it's what could have been. You know what I mean? Like you said, it was, we were the only professional team on the island. Carmelo Anthony being the owner.
Yep.
It had all the right pieces in place to be something special. And unfortunately, it ended early, but that's life.
Yeah, and it had when it was the Islanders, they had great success on the field. They won the NASL or whatever league it was at one time, and they won the CONCACAF.
They never won it, but they beat the Galaxy.
Yeah.
They played Toluca in Mexico. They played Cruz Azul in Mexico.
Yeah.
They beat the Galaxy with Donovan and Beckham on it. So, hey, fair play.
As someone who played in Puerto Rico, I don't know if Donovan and Beckham could handle that heat. It was the humidity, the heat. It was something else. I remember going down there. We lost 3-0 to you guys, one game, and it was the longest game of my life. You couldn't even breathe. The pitch was. It must have rained or something before, so the pitch was heavy. It was humid. It was the middle of July.
Same there, and we talk about it here. We talk about it with these guys. Because we want to play there, but we now play on the West Coast as our national stadium. The pitch, man, dry or wet, your body feels it regardless. So the both of us suffered. We were obviously more used to it. You guys were.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, it's been great catching up, Sidney. Thanks so much for coming on, joining us on this podcast. Good luck in your upcoming qualifiers. We're definitely going to check them out.
Definitely keep following Sidney. How do we follow you on Instagram and Twitter and whatnot?
Instagram, Twitter, they're all unified. SidR10. That's my handle on Twitter and Instagram. I'm very open. I appreciate the time, guys, and I hope people learn a little bit and continue to listen to your podcast. You guys are doing awesome. Bringing a lot of different experiences to the listeners, and I hope it continues.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. And it's your career. I think I might have told you before, but definitely your career has always been one that I've really been interested in following. I love the I think, and I know Jake does too, like different experiences. It's just a really interesting career, and I hope more and more people, you already have a pretty good following. I hope more and more people jump in and kind of see what the next step is, and where it takes you next, because it's opening doors and opportunities and exposing different parts of the game to people, which is really cool.
Yeah. And I hope we get to reunite in Asia one day. Hey, I'll run off to you. You just stay up front and knock them down, and I'll chase everything down. How about that?
I love that.
All right. Thanks so much, Sidney. Enjoy the rest of the trip.
Take care.
Right.
Until next time, Dave, I'm the athlete.
I'm the advocate.
And we are the Aristocrats.